Peace be with you. So today is the 11th of October. Welcome to the Institute of All Intelligent Life. My name is Alan Kiesler. We are going to talk today a little about some more whistleblowers and perhaps begin talking about the structure of existence, returning to that subject with some very important basic information, I guess what would be called physics, which is the basis of the structure of the universe. But first I want to talk about two whistleblowers a little bit more. I've mentioned Randy Cramer before. I have not mentioned Tony Rodrigues because I just found out about him. But he is another person who has been to Mars and spent 20 years in the secret space program, and his story is quite disturbing, as Randy Cramer's story is also. So I'm just going to take a minute now to let a few more people join the class, and I want to repeat that there is some disturbing information that is coming out that I'm learning more about, which comes from the secret space program, Mars colony especially, information. And just to give a little bit of background for that, as I myself have only been learning the last month or two, the Mars colony, very large colony on Mars, over 1 million, perhaps millions of people, Earth people, was created by the secret space programs, especially the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, or ICC. They found native intelligent life on Mars, 2 different species, and they had difficulty establishing their bases. Originally the Germans, even before the end of World War II, had gone to Mars and had difficulty establishing bases there. And then after the end of the war, when the United States became involved in the secret space programs, cooperating with the Germans, they then had a number of fights, and they used nuclear weapons against the native Martians. And they also used nuclear weapons to increase and create larger areas underneath the surface of Mars where they built their bases. So that's the first thing that's a little disturbing about this history, which we can understand more now why this history was kept secret from us, because there was a lot of objection on the part of the citizens of the United States, as well as all people all over the world, to the use of nuclear weapons, atomic weapons, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of World War II. So they naturally wanted to keep secret from us the fact that they were using nuclear weapons against people from other planets also. So that's the first thing that's a little disturbing in these narratives that is coming out, that are coming out from these participants in these 20 and back secret space program terms of duty of 20 years. The second thing that's very disturbing, which I have mentioned very briefly or hinted at before, is that many of the people involved in these programs are more or less slaves. So just as the Germans, the Nazis, used slave labor in their factories in the Second World War, so a lot of the participants, not only factory workers, but different types of workers, including security personnel, in the secret space programs, are more like slaves. They aren't really freely doing their duties or the work that they're doing. Of course, some of them have been promised, just as Corey Goode has explained, he was promised after the 20-year tour of duty that he would be, given a good job and be very financially secure, and those promises actually were not kept, but he was more or less doing what he was doing with that understanding. Whereas many of the people who are on Mars or who are in other activities of the secret space program, like on asteroids or moons, they may have been originally told that they would have a nice situation on Mars, and they were often told that the Earth is in great danger and may be destroyed, so you are part of the elite or the specially selected people that we're taking to Mars or elsewhere in order to save you when the Earth is destroyed. But in fact, they became slaves once they got to Mars or to other places. They were told that they had to do, whether they liked it or not, what they were going to do. And Corey Goode also has given a few instances where he, as part of a research vessel that he was on, and as in his role as an intuitive empath, he was taken to Mars, and some of the people on his research vessel were, we might say, mechanics or experts in some of the technology that was being used on Mars, and if there was a breakdown in some of the equipment, they had to repair it. So the ICC, the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, has their own mechanics and engineers, but on occasion, when something broke down and they needed a repair right away, they didn't have time to get their people who may have been stationed elsewhere, and Corey Goode's research vessel just happened to be very nearby. So some technicians from his ship were called to make the repairs, and he went along with them because they always took an intuitive empath along with them as well as a security guard. So he was able to observe that the people in the Mars colonies looked very unhappy and pale and like they could have been doing everything unwillingly. So with the testimony of Randy Cramer and Tony Rodrigues, we get Rodrigues, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, I'll spell it for you. First, Randy Cramer, again I've spelled this before, but R-A-N-D-Y C-R-A-M-E-R, and he has a website called earthcitizenconsulting.org, Earth, E-A-R-T-H, Citizen, C-I-T-I-Z-E-N, Consulting, C-O-N-S-U-L-T-I-N-G.org, and he has a very interesting story, which I'll tell about in a minute. And the second person we're going to be talking about today is Tony Rodrigues, who also was in that 20 and back program, in these secret space programs. And he, as far as I know, does not have a website yet. He's only just come out in the last month or two. Has anybody heard about him publicly? But if you do an internet search on his name, because it's a fairly common name, you'll have to add something like Mars after the search. So his name is Tony, T-O-N-Y, Rodrigues, R-O-D-R-I-G-U-E-S. So if you do a search for Tony Rodrigues and put in add Mars or secret space program, because otherwise many other Tony Rodrigues will come up. So first I'll just mention a little bit about Randy Cramer, a couple of interesting things. He was a Marine, United States Marine Corps, SS, Special Section. This was a special section of the Marine Corps created by President Eisenhower secretly. Nobody knew about this because he realized that something was happening in the United States, that covert programs, what he called the military-industrial complex, which he warned the American people about, was getting out of his control, out of presidential control. So he created this special section in the United States Marine Corps to help him deal with those factions that were not really obedient to the American government or to the president. So Randy Cramer was a member of this United States Marine Corps Special Section, and he, the same thing that we found out about these other members of this 20 and back program, he was blank slated, his memories were erased, but he gradually regained his memories, and when he had regained his memories, very interestingly, his commander in the United States Marine Corps Special Section told him to go public with this information. And he was astonished because he had taken a vow of secrecy. And he said, "Are you sure? And what should I talk about?" And his superior told him everything. Tell everything you know. So this is actually a very, very good sign, a wonderful sign, that people in the American military are trying to get the word out, and they are getting the word out, just like we've now heard about Randy Cramer and others. So they're fighting against the cabal, the Illuminati, and they're trying to get the information out that the cabal is trying to keep secret. So Randy Cramer spent 3 years working with his congressman, the member of parliament, you would say, in Pakistan or other countries that have parliamentary system. So the member of Congress from his area helped him to get his documents proving that he had been in the American military, and they spent 3 years trying to get proof, documentation of his military career, and they could not get it. Despite, knowing that it was there. This is a thing that we've found out happens before. The files go missing, or they just can't be located, or they're said they're confidential, whatever. So he could not get his documents. But finally he just went public, even without any proof of his military career. So his website, Earth Citizen Consulting, has a lot of information. He's done a lot of interviews on radio, and YouTube interviews of him are available on that website, so you can find out a lot of information about him. Just a couple of interesting points. He was on Mars for many years. He was elsewhere also, and he reported, as Corey Goode and others have also reported, that the Mars atmosphere is very thin and it's quite cold on Mars compared to the Earth, but it is breathable, especially I think nearer to the poles. They said that the atmosphere, you can actually breathe, although it's like very high elevation on the Earth. It's difficult to breathe, but it is possible. And another astonishing thing is, and on his website he even has photographs of forests on Mars. And NASA has publicly admitted that there's water on Mars. There's running water on Mars, which was quite astonishing after years of taking the opposite position. NASA has said there is water on Mars. So Randy Cramer points out not only water, but there's actually rain. That's why they're the forests. And I don't know, I've heard that the forests may have even been planted by Earth humans, many of those forests, but there is a whole ecosystem on Mars which includes water, forests, and rain, and a breathable atmosphere, although with some difficulty. So please do your own research on these very, very important whistleblowers who are giving us this very, very important information about secret space programs. So I want to talk a little more, because I have not mentioned him previously. Tony Rodrigues, again, I don't know exactly how his name is pronounced, Rodrigue or Rodrigues, it's a Hispanic name. But he was inducted into the secret space programs, as sometimes, Corey Goode, I think, was 6 years old when he was first taken into these programs for initial training. Tony was 9 years old. He was in the 4th grade, and he said he did something that embarrassed one of his schoolmates, who happened to be the son of a high-ranking Illuminati member, a high-ranking member of the cabal, and because of that he was punished. Tony was punished by being forcibly taken into the secret space programs. And he was tested and found that he has some psychic abilities that they could use. So for 4 years, from the age of 9 until the age of 13, he was used as a psychic in the secret space programs. And then later, this is very, very disturbing, but this is going on. We know this sort of thing is going on all over the world, not only in secret space programs. But he was used as a sex slave from the age of 13 to 16 for 3 years on the Earth. And then this sort of thing goes on all the time in the Illuminati, the cabal. It's very, very horrible, but it's true. And then at the age of 16, he was taken, again as a slave. He was not free. He was taken to the moon, where more tests were performed on him, and then he was sent to Mars, again as a slave, as a fighter or a security person, to help protect the Mars colonies, the human colonies on Mars, against native Martian species, because there was a war, fighting still going on, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, including nuclear bombs being used by the Earthlings against the native Martians. So after some time, not a very long time, he was in that position as a fighter on Mars, protecting the bases. I guess they were the ICC, Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate bases on Mars, or colonies on Mars. And then he was sent to Ceres. Ceres is an asteroid, or a planetoid in the asteroid belt, a very large asteroid, where he was then again a slave in the secret space program. So please look up these two gentlemen, Randy Cramer and Tony Rodrigues, and you'll get a lot of information about the secret space program. More and more is coming out. More and more people are coming forward, and they're all confirming. They're all saying, similar things. Be careful, because there can be disinformation out there too. People are trying to mislead us and trying to create doubts in our minds about this. But now at least 6 or 7 members, participants in the secret space programs, have come forward and talked about the existence of large human colonies on Mars, and they're all basically saying the same thing, and many of them did not know about each other previously. So I want to move on. Well, maybe I'll see if there are any good questions that I'll answer first, and then I'm going to move on to this very important physics, I guess it is, very fundamental principles about, you could either call it the history of the cosmos or the basic structure of the cosmos, and how things are made according to extraterrestrial sources that know a lot more than our scientists do. Of course, our scientists know a lot more. Some of our scientists know more than they're letting on, because they're involved in this secret space program work, and they are getting the information from extraterrestrials, the same information that I'm going to be talking about. But most scientists in the world are completely unaware of it, just like most people in the world are completely unaware of the secret space programs. So let me just see first if we have any questions here, good questions here that I've missed. Most people are just saying hello or assalamu alaikum. Just hi sir. Okay, so we don't really have any real questions. How are you? So please, no need to say hi or hello or assalamu alaikum or how are you, because I'm not going to respond to those. But if there are any good questions about what I'm talking about, I may answer them. Fahad Jawra has just asked, as you mentioned, there is a lot of information on internet, some of it true and some false. Yes, there is a lot of very good, true information, just like I am telling you about not only Randy Cramer and Tony Rodrigues and Corey Goode, but there are other secret space program whistleblowers, just like William Tompkins, who I mentioned previously, that are giving very good, true information. And then there are others who themselves may have wrong information that they think is true, but they are incorrect. And then there are many people who are paid to do this on the internet. Sometimes they're called trolls, to give false information or to create problems for people. But there's disinformation, intentionally false information. That is, people that are trying to conceal the truth about the secret space program or about other things. They give information on the internet that is partly true. So we see those true things and it sounds good and we believe them, we accept them. But then they mix in false information. And sometimes the information will come out later as false. We'll realize later, oh, we believed that, but it was false. And then the idea is that we should then become suspicious and mistrustful about everything, even the true information. So there's a lot of false stuff on the internet, and there's a lot of intentionally false disinformation. So we do have to be very careful and discriminating, and that's why it's important for us to meditate and pray and purify our hearts, because we do have the ability to discern between truth and falsehood. We have to develop and cultivate that ability, and we will gradually, we'll make mistakes, and I've made a lot of mistakes believing things on the internet that were false and later finding out they were false. But gradually we will learn to discern between what is true and what is false. So that's a very good point, that there's a lot of information on the internet that is not true. We have to be careful. How do we verify if certain information is credible or not? Ultimately, it has to be our own discrimination. If we find somebody whose judgment we trust, then they can help us a lot. But ultimately, we have to decide who we're going to trust. So that's the ultimate verification, is our own decision. This seems right to me, and this person seems trustworthy to me. And then we can act more on the basis. But they may be very trustworthy and very good and sincere, but they may make mistakes, or they may be deceived. So it's not easy. But we just have to keep working at it, and the more we do it, the more we get better at it, and we will gradually learn to understand. So, Shami Khan, is this all controlled by the Illuminati? No. They're trying to control the internet. I don't know, maybe I didn't understand your question. This all, if by that you mean the secret space programs, largely, a lot of the secret space programs are controlled by the Illuminati. But fortunately, the Illuminati have not been able to control the internet. They're trying very hard to restrict access to information on the internet by various tactics. But so far they've not. And I don't think they'll be able to do it fully, but they're certainly trying. But fortunately, the internet is not being controlled by the Illuminati very much, although they're trying. Akhlaq Hussein, before creation of universe, there were huge clouds of energy, radiation, water, winds. Well, we are going to be talking about this. This is one of my parts of this class that I'm going to get into more detail. Yes, there was a time of the creation of the universe, but there also is another dimension of existence, what I have called the trans-dimensional worlds, or the trans-dimensional existence, which was never created. It is eternal. But this world that we're living in is created, and before it was created, Akhlaq Hussein is saying there were huge clouds of energy, radiation, water, winds. I don't think that's quite correct. I will go into that in more detail of the gradual process of creation of this universe. But it certainly was on the basis of consciousness. Consciousness was pre-existing, and consciousness is the source of matter, not that consciousness arises out of matter. That's a very wrong conception that modern science has. So, are they like humans? Yes. Many of the extraterrestrial species are like humans in many ways. They are different in some ways. The Martian, particularly the Martian two species that are there, one of them is described as more reptilian and one as more insectoid. That is, they have 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 eyes, a nose with 2 nostrils. Sometimes they don't have a nose, mouth and ears. So they're very humanoid, but they look a little bit different than we do. So it just happens that the 2 humanoid species on Mars are not human being looking, just like we are. But there are, throughout the universe, there are humanoid species that look almost exactly like us, also very similar to us. I have heard that the Israeli Jews are especially involved in Illuminati and Freemasonry. I would put it the other way around. That is, that the Illuminati, they created Israel. And in Israel, of course, most of the people in Israel are Jews. There are plenty of Muslims, Palestinians also. But many of the Jews in Israel are not in the Illuminati or Freemasonry. They're very good people, and they are protesting, objecting to the Illuminati-controlled government's activities against the Palestinians, the genocide of the Palestinians. There are plenty of Jews. I've known Jews in America. I don't know very many Israeli Jews, but plenty of Jews in America who are against the Israeli government's activities. In fact, when I was living in Berkeley before I moved to Esparto, where I am now, my very next door neighbor was a Jewish gentleman and his wife. They were about my age, a little bit younger than me, and they had a daughter who actually went to Israel and went to Palestine and saw what was happening, and she became completely convinced of the validity and the truthfulness of the Palestinian position, and she did a lot of work trying to expose what the Israeli government is doing, the horrible things that they're doing to the Palestinians. So she was a Jewish girl by birth, by ethnicity. She actually sort of became a Muslim for some time, as she was so influenced by the Palestinian cause. But there are many Jews who are not like that. In Israel, too, there are many Jews, but not the Israeli government. The Israeli government has been pretty well controlled, just like the American government and most governments around the world have been controlled either directly or indirectly by the Illuminati. And Israel itself, as a country and its government, was basically created by the Illuminati, although plenty of Jews participated, not knowing that and not understanding that. So I think this is important to understand. So that's why I've gone on how to protect or trust fair information. As I said, it's difficult, and we have to develop our own discernment. We have to learn to discern. Is Illuminati have any resemblance with black magic? Yes, the Illuminati, they use black magic. That is one of the things they do a lot of. And they have succeeded often in using black magic for their purposes. But as I pointed out several times, fortunately, now they are being counteracted, and the Illuminati is now on the run. They are no longer in the powerful position of controlling what goes on in the world as they were even just a few years ago. Just like 9/11 was created by the Illuminati and they made it seem like it was done by Muslim terrorists, Osama bin Laden, but actually they were able to get away with it. And for years, they had most people in the world convinced. But, of course, some people very early realized what was really going on. And now more and more people all over the world are understanding that 9/11 was an inside job. It was created by the American secret government, by Mossad, by the Israeli agencies. And so the truth is coming out, and the Illuminati is now in a very weakened position, and in fact they're afraid. They're realizing that their whole plan is now failing. And this is largely because, as I've talked about, as Corey Goode specifically has talked about, there is a group called the Sphere Being Alliance of very high, spiritually high-level extraterrestrials who have entered into our solar system and are helping, protecting the good, sincere people, and are fighting against the Illuminati and their extraterrestrial allies who are evil. So we don't need to worry as much as we were a little while ago, a few years ago, about the Illuminati, because their plans are being counteracted and their efforts are failing now. Walid Ahmed Khan, there's a Freedom of Information Act in USA, and under that constitutional law, government is liable to share all the information, no matter how classified. Can you share your opinion on it? There is this Freedom of Information Act in the USA, which is a very good act, and the government is obliged to share information unless it could be damaging to national security. So, but they have to demonstrate that it would be threatening to the national security. So what's been going on, as I mentioned, actually just this morning I talked about Randy Cramer's efforts for 3 years to get his papers that he filed Freedom of Information requests, and other members of the secret space program who have come out, they also are filing Freedom of Information requests for information. But often what happens is they try to deny that they have the information, whether it's NASA or more secret space programs. They simply say that the files are missing. If people know that the information is there, they know that letters have been written, they know that the files must be there. When they can no longer deny that the information exists, they say that they can't find it. The files are missing. So it's a very good, Freedom of Information Act is a very good thing, but unfortunately the government is misusing it, is failing to comply by the requirements of that very good Freedom of Information Act. What is the communication extraterrestrial beings use to communicate to humans? They use mainly telepathy. They don't need to speak and use sounds for communicating, just like we can also communicate telepathically a little bit. We're learning to do that more. Extraterrestrials generally use telepathy, but when communicating with us, they often use our languages. As I've said before, the language that I've been communicated with by extraterrestrials is English. They have used English with me. Are you happy with the current education system? No. The current education system all over the world is basically also has been controlled by the Illuminati largely. Although there are always good and sincere educators who have been giving real information, mostly the educational system in the United States is a lot of information has come out. It's actually intentionally dumbing down the students, making the students trained just to do what they're told, not to think for themselves. But other intelligent educators are training students to think for themselves. So the education system in Pakistan also is the same way. It does not teach students to think for themselves. Largely, it just, as I mentioned recently also, because I had experience teaching in Pakistan, the students are just trained, taught to prepare themselves for the government exams, and that's all they want to do. They want to succeed in the government exam, so they don't really care whether they learn anything except what's on the exam so they can answer the questions. Very sad situation. All over the world, the education systems are not very good because they are strongly influenced by the Illuminati. Has Edward Snowden or Julian Assange leaked any of such information? Yes, both of them. As far as I know, Edward Snowden is a very, very good person, very brave to come out the way he has, and he has leaked information about secret space programs also. Very little, but he has. Julian Assange also has revealed some communications between different government officials, and there's a little bit about secret space program. I think that's what the question is. Any such information means secret space programs. Yes, they have also a little. Should not this be yes, should Muhammad Zafar is asking, should not be this information in our education, how we can develop thinking like you think? Yes, this should be in our education. Very, very important. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to introduce a little more of this meaningful education where people are taught about the reality of our history for thousands of years, the reality of extraterrestrial interaction with human beings, and we should be taught how to think for ourselves. Yes, that definitely should be in our education. It's not very much, but hopefully it will increase. What is this? Pan army will be the army of Prophet Isa and Imam Mahdi. Maybe he means Pak army. Maybe. Inshallah. We hope that every army will become good, and maybe the Pakistan army will do that. I certainly am praying that that will happen. We believe, sir, American people are good. The main problem is that the America is not totally under control by the Americans. I think America is under the influence of the Zionists, Jews. I know all Jews. I see. Oops. I'm trying to get this. See more here. All Jews are not bad. Yes. Yes. The Zionists are controlling the American government. There's no doubt about that. And Zionists may not be Jews. There are people who are not Jews who are Zionists also. But and they are very closely allied with the Illuminati, the Cabal, And yes, America, the American government is largely under the control of the Zionists, as many other governments of the world are also. So there must be humans other than us, as when we study animals, we see that under this title animals, there are lions, tigers, elephants, etc. All are animals, but so much different from each other. Same way, birds, but crows, parrots, eagles, pigeons, etc. all birds, but so much different from each other. We can't say pigeon a parrot, or can't say dog a cat, though both are birds or animals. Yes, this is a very good point. Thank you very much, Gemma Art. I guess that's not your real name, but that's a nice name for the internet usage. So yes, there are definitely other humans other than exactly looking just like us, but we sometimes call them humanoid. There are many different groups of extraterrestrials, including some that I have seen myself, who are humanoid but are not human. So, or there are other types of humans, you can say, like you're saying here. Just like there are many types of animals, there are many types of humans. Yes, there are intelligent beings. They have sensitivity like we have to some spiritual topics. They have the ability to think rationally beyond what animals do. And these human beings are different than us. Humanoid, therefore we say. They may not be exactly looking like us, but they have. So we get requests to speak in Urdu again. मैं थोड़ा सा उर्दू में बात कर सकता हूँ, लेकिन अभी मैंने बताया था हर शनिचर को हम उर्दू में क्लास लेते हैं और चैट करते हैं, लेकिन during the week we are speaking in English because, as we've had this discussion before, English is a much broader understood, more widely understood language. Do you think Trump is from another planet? Who are you voting for? I have said before I'm voting for Andrew Bashago, who is a whistleblower, who has been to Mars, who was the first American child to be teleported because his father was a participant in that secret research for time travel and teleportation. So I'm planning to vote for him. Do I think Trump is from another planet? I've never had that idea before, but possibly. I guess it's not impossible. Walid Ahmed Khan, I am Pakistani and I believe that large numbers of Pakistani students are extremely inept intellectually and rarely seen engaged in constructive activities. One of the issues is they are infested with hate, jealousy, and toxicity, plus some sort of inferior complex. This behavior reflects in everything they do. What would you suggest to them? Very good point, yes. There is an inferiority complex which has been intentionally taught to Pakistanis, not only students in universities, but throughout the country. The international media, Zionist media, you can say, and the Illuminati, the Cabal, has been training not only Pakistanis, but especially Pakistanis and many other people that may be a threat to the Illuminati. They are giving us the inferiority complex. So Pakistanis have been taught like this, that my country is inferior. It's not. So I'm trying to do what you're suggesting to help Pakistanis understand. No, Pakistan is not a poor country. Pakistan is not a terrorist country. Pakistan is not a failed country, but just the opposite. Pakistan is a very wealthy country. Pakistan is actually fighting terrorism more effectively than practically any other country in the world. And Pakistan has a brilliant, glorious future. Economically, it's already, in the last couple of years, I think the turnaround has been made in Pakistan economically, and inshallah we will see more and more positive change coming. I think another positive change is that just in the last couple of years, the Pakistani military has been very effective in counteracting terrorism, more than previously. And so I think that Pakistani students should be very happy about their own country and about their opportunities that they are getting now. And if many students are inept, they've not been trained properly, yes, that's true. Not only Pakistan, but yes, certainly in Pakistan. and rarely engaged in constructive activities. Well, let's change that. Join me. That's one of the things I'm trying to do, is to help Pakistani students and others understand the truth about Pakistan. And you can read some of the things I've written. You can find them on my Facebook page. Every country government printing their currency notes. Why not America? Well, American currency is printed by the printing press is owned by the government, but it's actually their Federal Reserve notes. Interestingly, other countries also, although it may appear that the government owns the money, the governments are the slaves of the banks. So formerly in Europe, for example, the money was controlled by the banks. Then the banks turned it over to the governments when they realized that they control the government, so they don't need to keep it in their direct control anymore, because people were finding out, oh, the banks are controlling our money. So the banks turned the money over to the governments in Europe. But that's because the banks controlled the governments. So they haven't controlled the government of the United States fully yet. So they haven't turned the money over to the government yet. It's still controlled by the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. But it's not the only country. Other countries also, the banks control the money. All right. Salam, sir. How are you, sir? What is the universal goal of universities? Universities should teach us to think for ourselves and to become moral, good, honest, kind, loving people. That's the real purpose of education. Why Illuminati are interested in Pakistan? What's your view? Well, I think they may be aware that Pakistan has a very glorious future and has a very powerful military, and that the people are going to fight against the Illuminati. So therefore, they're interested in Pakistan to try to suppress this happening in Pakistan. They're trying to prevent it from happening. That's my view. Pakistan is a very nice country and so beautiful, yes. Pakistan is the most beautiful country in the world, as if you've seen that peacocks confirming. Once, a couple of years ago, when I was in Bahawalpur, I did a video and some peacocks were in the background, and I said Pakistan is the most beautiful country in the world, and the peacocks all went wah, 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 wah. They were confirming, so you can find that too. Rihan Alawala recently posted it with the Urdu translation, because that was in English. Please, can you help Pakistani students find scholarships in universities? That is not my job, thank you. There are institutions that are doing that, but I have other work that I have to do. I'm sorry that I can't do that for you. Sir, I will do change very soon. Me cover picture, same your cover picture. After I like your cover picture, Pakistan map, clear name Mohammed. Yes, thank you very much. Oh, there's something in Spanish here. Unfortunately, I don't know Spanish, so I can't really understand what that means. It would be great if you could suggest one book or article weekly or monthly. That would definitely help them kickstart towards a betterment. Well, I don't have it here with me right now, but I previously have pointed out the book by Michael Salla, S-A-L-L-A, called Insiders Reveal Secret Space Programs and Extraterrestrial Alliances. So I will recommend, if you haven't already gotten it or read it, get that book. Michael Salla, S-A-L-L-A, or anything by him. Exopolitics.org is his website. He's a very, very good writer, and he's done a very, very good job of summarizing the true information about the secret space programs. That book again is called Insiders Reveal Secret Space Programs and Extraterrestrial Alliances. So that will be the book. I will, from time to time, recommend some books or articles. Or I've recommended this website, earthcitizenconsulting.org, Randy Cramer's website, and Corey Goode's website, Sphere Being Alliance, I think it's .com, Sphere Being Alliance. So those will be what I'll recommend for now. And what do you think about the current economic system? I've talked about this a lot previously. The banking system is created actually by the cabal, by their extraterrestrial allies and the cabal to make us slaves. The current economic system, the money system, money is totally unnecessary. It's a system that they use to trick us into using it so that they can control us by the money system. So you really believe in the existence of Illuminati too? Yes, of course. Some years ago, I met a person who was a young man, younger than me. He was, I guess, in his 30s, not that young for some of you. But he had been born and raised in the Illuminati. And he showed me tattoos on his body that he said they put there. And he was trying to get out of it. He was trying to get away from it. So, yes, certainly, there's a lot of information on the internet you can find about the Illuminati. Study the New World Order for 6 years. I am Brazilian. I have study group in my town. Very good. Yes, the New World Order is another name for the Illuminati or the Cabal. All right. My second question, Fayez Ahmed Usman. My second question is that what you say about UFO research about others. I don't really understand that question. Okay, so before I end, I'm just going to check the time here. Ooh, well, our time is really up for the class, so I will begin this tomorrow, what I was going to talk about, but I'll tell you what it basically is. It is about the structure of reality, or the fundamental principles of physics. That is, what is this universe made out of? You know, we are taught atoms and molecules, and we are taught subatomic particles. What actually is the universe made out of, according to advanced extraterrestrial information? And briefly, everything is made out of vibration or motion. And all these troubles, the difficulties that modern physics is having, is because they don't understand this basic point. They still think in terms of matter moving in a sort of box of space-time, but that conception is incorrect, and we have to revise that conception. We have to understand reality, or the reality of our universe, in a different way. So that's going to be the topic tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you. असद अली प्रिंस साहब दरख्वास्त कर रहे हैं कि मैं उर्दू में बात करूं, तो 1 मिनट के लिए मैं उर्दू में बात करूंगा आपको खुश करने के लिए। लेकिन मैंने पहले बताया, हर शनिचर को 6:30 बजे सुबह कैलिफोर्निया में, शाम को पाकिस्तान में। कल मैंने गलती की थी, मैंने बताया 5:30 बजे सुबह पाकिस्तान में। यहाँ अमेरिका में, कैलिफोर्निया में 6:30 बजे सुबह कल मैं आपसे बात फिर करूंगा, और कल शाम को 6:30 बजे पाकिस्तान में। ओके, ठीक है अली साहब, असद अली प्रिंस साहब, आप खुश हैं? अभी मैंने थोड़े से उर्दू में बात किया। हर सैटरडे को, हर शनिचर को मैं क्लास सिर्फ उर्दू में लेता हूँ। ओके, may peace be with you. May God protect us all. Allah Hafiz. Ijaz Ali, we love you, sir. Thank you. I love you all too. This is the real natural emotion of the human heart, is love. It is natural for us to be loving, but we have been taught to be selfish and to work for ourselves and to, but thank you very, very much. We'll see you tomorrow, inshallah.